cybersecurity, personal security, social security, so many different kind of securities. However, today I'm going to be going over the securities related to finance. Let's get into the video. What's up YouTube? My name is Ivan Acosta and I make videos on personal finance. So if you're new here and that's a topic that you're interested in, please consider subscribing. Also, if you find this video to be very informative, make sure to hit that like button and also don't forget to comment your thoughts below. So what is a security? A security represents an investment of money into a common enterprise with the expectation of profits derived primarily from the efforts of someone other than the investor. Now, under the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, a security is a
note, bond, stock, variable annuity, investment contract, profit sharing or partnership agreement, certificate of deposit, option on a security, or any financial instrument with monetary value.
Now I know that's a long list, so don't worry, you don't need to rewind this video to go over all those securities because I'm going to go ahead and simplify this by classifying these securities under 3 different categories. So for our first category, we're going to be going over equity securities. Some examples of equity securities would be common stock, preferred stock. Other assets such as mutual funds and ETFs may be considered equity securities as long as their holdings are composed of pooled equity securities. Now, to simplify things in this category, I'm only going to be discussing common stock. Equities represent ownership in a legal entity such as a corporation. Now, a corporation is only allowed to issue 2 types of equity securities, common stock and preferred stock. Normally, when people are talking about stock, they're usually referring to common stock. You see, a company issues stock in order to raise capital through investors so that they can grow the company. Investors who buy stock buy shares of ownership in that company with the expectation to grow their profits. Now, here are some benefits that common stock shareholders receive. So benefit number 1 is sharing in the company's stock price appreciation. Number 2 is that you may be eligible for dividends, but keep in mind that is under the company's discretion whether they're going to be paying dividends or not. Number 3 are voting rights. You are allowed to cast your vote to elect someone to be on the board of directors. And number 4 are preemptive rights, which gives you priority and first dibs on new issued shares before new shareholders are allowed to buy them. So with equity securities, there's positives and there's negatives. Just like you're allowed to participate in the gains, you could also participate in the losses. You see, investors should be aware that there's no guarantee on their investments and that there's a possibility that they can lose their entire investment. In the event of a bankruptcy, common stock shareholders are the last to be paid, which this leads us into our next category, debt securities. So the best way to understand debt securities is by remembering them as IOUs. The issuer owes you. For example, you as the investor are going to lend money to the issuer in exchange for securities with the agreement that the issuer is going to pay you back in full plus interest at a later date. Now keep in mind, with equity securities, you're an owner. With debt securities, you're the creditor. There are several types of debt securities. However, I'm going to begin with government issued securities. Government securities are backed by the full faith and credit of the US government. A good example would be treasuries like bills, notes, bonds, and tips, which are Treasury inflation protected securities. The debt securities are also issued through agency-like organizations. Some examples include Federal Farm Credit Banks, the Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation, also known as Freddie Mac, and the Federal National Mortgage Association, also known as Fannie Mae. Now, keep in mind that securities issued through agency-like organizations are not backed by the government. However, securities issued through Ginnie Mae, the Government National Mortgage Association, are backed by the US government. The third type of debt security are issued by a municipality. Some examples would be general obligation bonds and revenue bonds. You see, general obligation bonds are issued by a state, city, or district to raise capital for municipal improvements that are going to benefit the community. Some examples would be a public school or a public library. Now, these securities are backed by the full faith and credit of the issuer. Revenue bonds can be used to finance any type of municipal facility. Now, these bonds are backed by the revenue that these facilities bring. Some examples would be a toll road or an airport. The final type of debt security is issued by corporations. You see, there are two types of corporate bonds: secured bonds and unsecured bonds. A bond is secured when the issuer identifies an asset as collateral in exchange for interest and principal payments. You see, if the issuer does not pay the bondholder is allowed to claim the asset. The bond is unsecured when the issuer has not identified a specific asset as collateral for principal payments and interest. Therefore, it's a lot more riskier for the bondholder. Now that we've gone over equity and debt securities, I'm going to go over the third financial instrument, derivatives. Derivatives are contracts that derive their value from the performance of an underlying entity such as an asset, index, or interest rate. You see, there's different kinds of derivatives. The most common would be options, futures, swaps, and forwards. Derivatives can be used for many reasons, such as hedging, increasing your exposure to price movements for speculation, and getting you access to unavailable assets and markets. You see, derivatives tend to be higher risk, so are more likely to be used by more experienced investors. So there we have it, guys, the different types of securities and financial instruments. If you found this video to be informative, do me a favor, hit the like button, and if this is the first time that you're watching, consider subscribing. Also, make sure you comment your thoughts below. Let me know what you thought of the video. And I'm gonna leave you the same way I do in every single video. Make it your mission to be a better you every single day. Be humble, stay hungry, and be positive. I'll see you on the next one.